Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Caesar's Palace for 12 rounds of boxing. In the red corner, from Los Angeles, California, wearing the red trunks with the gold trim, weighing in at 125 pounds, the lightweight champion of the world, Danny Little Red Lopez. Well, Bill, our winners get a home theater receiver. That's right. Experience the full potential of high-definition video with this 72-channel digital home theater receiver from Yamaha. But wait, that's not all. They also get a 5.1-channel surround sound system from Mirage. With 5 palm-sized speakers and a compact subwoofer cube, the MX 5.1 brings you huge immersive sound with Mirage's omnipolar technology. All from the Spiegel catalog, Chicago, Illinois, 60609. And they're taking closer order as down the stretch they come. Mr. Hot Stuff has 3 lengths to make up with chocolate candy last. On the rail, take the points behind that gallant son with chocolate candy gaining on the outside. In the lead is Pioneer of the Nile being tackled by chocolate candy. They're neck and neck as they come to the wire. And Pioneer of the Nile holds off chocolate candy and wins the Santa Anita Derby. And now, on your feet, time to greet holder of 14 NBA titles, your home team, your Los Angeles Lakers. Number 3 at 6'8", 5th year out of UCLA, playing forward, Trevor Ariza. Starting at center, number 17 at 7 feet, 4th year out of St. Andrews High School, Andrew Bynum. And at guard, number 24, 6'6", 13th season out of Loyal Marion High School, Kobe Bryant.
I had an apartment, before I had a house, and I had a neighbor. Whenever he would knock on my wall, I knew he wanted me to turn my music down. And that made me angry because I like loud music. So when he knocked on the wall, I'd fuck with his head. I would say, "Go around." I can now open the wall. I don't know if you have a doorknob on the other side. But over here, there's nothing. It's just flat. Only way you're coming in is through osmosis. I had an apartment.
Good morning. It's Wednesday, Apollo Wednesday, October the 29th, and this is The True Conservative. Welcome to all the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers out there. I'm Ron, your host, and the only true conservative in the United States today. So today, after the Serenity Prayer and the patriotic song of the day, we will have Varney and Company, motivation, meditation, and Apollo. All that and more when I get back. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I should not change, the courage to change the things I should, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen. Thank you. And now, Varney and Company.
The president is wrapping up a very successful tour of Asia. He has a trade deal with South Korea where tariffs are cut to 15% and the Koreans invest $350 billion in America, including $150 billion for shipbuilding. Now it's on to a meeting with China's leader Xi Jinping. There is agreement on rare earths. China has started buying American soybeans. China may get some Blackwell chips from NVIDIA. Fentanyl is under discussion. There is a China deal in the making. The market likes it. And with the Federal Reserve widely expected to lower interest rates today, stocks continue their rally. There's green on your screen. The Dow's up 100. The Nasdaq is up 100 points. In pre-market trading, NVIDIA briefly hit $205.36, which made them a $5 trillion company. The 10-year Treasury, well, that yields under 4%, 3.99. The 2-year, right around 3.5%, exactly 3.50. Bitcoin, last time we checked, it was 112. Now it's 113.1. Gold, just over $4,000 an ounce, 4,034. Silver at $48 an ounce. Oil at $58 per. No, it's gone up to $60 per barrel. Would you look at gas? The average for regular is down to $3.03. The cheapest in the country, by the way, is regular in Oklahoma, which is $2.59. Politics. Approval of the Republican Party overall and approval of the Republicans in Congress has been going up. In other words, the shutdown is not being blamed entirely on the Republicans. We'll take a look at why this shutdown may be different. On the show today, Hurricane Melissa tears into Cuba after badly damaging Jamaica. Now it's going to pass through the Bahamas. Is this storm the result of climate change? We'll ask that question. And with less than a week to the New York election, we have a Mamdani update. He's a socialist and a Hamas supporter, and the Democrats are worried about him. He'll tar the whole party. So, why don't senior Democrats come out and state their opposition to him publicly? None has. Could be they know he's going to win and he'll make the whole party unelectable in the midterms. Wednesday, October the 29th, 2025.
And that was Stuart Varney, Non-Profit News Now. Back in a minute. Thank you. Now, Geert Wilders.
Weet u, een andere partij van haat beschuldigen is het meest valse wat er is. Wij zijn de partij van de hoop. Wij zijn de partij van mensen die vroeger op uw partij stemden. Wij zijn de partij van de mensen die vergeten zijn. Dat zijn de mensen in de arbeiderswijken die zien dat hun wijk totaal is veranderd. Dat ze een vreemde, een toerist zijn geworden in hun eigen wijk. Wij zijn de mensen die aan de ene kant cultureel conservatief zijn, maar sociaal als het gaat om gezondheidszorg, als het gaat om AOW, als het gaat om uitkeringen. Wij hebben uw kiezers overgenomen omdat u te arrogant was om ze serieus te nemen. En dat is de politiek van hoop. En die gaat niet weg, die wordt alleen maar sterker. En dat het ons niet is gelukt de afgelopen jaren. Dat ben ik met u eens. Maar dat lag niet aan ons. Dat lag omdat we zijn tegengewerkt. Ik ben geen premier geworden. Ik had premier moeten worden. Het ging net even met uw collega over de premier. Lag het aan Schoof. Ik zal geen verkeerd woord zeggen over de heer Schoof. Want hij heeft zijn best gedaan. Maar ik zeg u, als ik premier was geworden, wat ik had verdiend als leider van de grootste partij, dan hadden wij die agenda uitgerold. Met een premier die niet het gezag heeft van een partij, krijg je dat niet voor elkaar. En ik hoop dat die Nederlander morgen dat inziet en zegt niet Frans Timmermans, want dat is de meneer van de haat, maar de PVV van Wilders en de hoop, die gaan wij morgen weer groot maken. Timmermans. Dat is wat Nederland verdient.
And that was Geert Wilders. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now a little homicide life on the street. We got two sets of detectives, 2 males and 2 females, and they're talking about the actions of a third party, another female detective in the squad.
One behind no move me and you made on the street. See, I ain't got no question working with you. What you do about Shepard? I just want to go home at night.
Okay, so right there, he asks him, but you do about Shepard. Shepard is the one that was the female officer, got herself in trouble, got her gun taken away, got beaten up, and the one that was saying he has no problems or that he wants to go home at night, used to be her partner. So, but the point is, the one detective asked him a yes or no question, but you do about Shepard, right? So that's yes or no. He should either say, yes, I do, and maybe give an explanation, or no, I don't, with an explanation. But instead, he changes the subject. No, continue.
Huh? The bottom line is Renee lost control out there. She got her gun took, and all of us are taking hard looks for it. And you blame her for that? A little.
Okay, so there's another one. You blame her for that? It's again another yes or no question. And instead of coming back with yes, I do, and maybe an explanation, or no, I don't, and an explanation, she says a little. Now, part of the problem here is that the woman that said, and you blame her for that, it's tone of voice. It's intimidating. It suggests that she doesn't want to hear yes. She wants to hear no. But anyways, the point is that she changed the subject, and this goes on all the time. I run into it all day, every day, where you ask somebody a simple question, yes or no, and they don't give you a yes or no answer. Instead, they change the subject, and it makes things so difficult. Especially if you're in a situation where you really need a straight answer. You're talking to your doctor, you're talking to a bureaucrat, maybe you're talking to your boss, or you're talking to somebody at work about something financial, maybe your pay, you're expecting a raise or whatever, and you need some yes or no answers, and instead people keep changing the subject. So I'm getting in the habit of telling people, excuse me, that's not what I asked you. I asked you, do you blame Shepard? Yes or no? And then with the other woman, do you blame her for that? Yes or no? So, but again, the left in this country is the one that got us in the habit of doing all of this, so that they can get plausible deniability. And notice the other thing about these changing the subject is they don't change it radically. She doesn't say, well, you blame her for that, and then the other one doesn't say, well, hey, how about those Dodgers? Or how about those Orioles? That's obvious. That's an obvious changing the subject and ducking the question. She does it subtly, a little. And then the other guy that says, hey, I just want to go home at night. Again, he doesn't say, hey, how about those Orioles? Or, make it obvious he's changing the subject. He does it in a subtle and nuanced way. Back in a minute. Thank you. Now, motivation.
Don't put forth half effort unless you're okay with half results. Unless you're okay with not making 6 figures or 7 figures, unless you're okay with losing, then keep giving the effort you're putting forth. To be successful is never convenient. The things that you have to go through is never convenient. And the reason why some of you can give me 120 on Monday, because everything look good on Monday. Like, you're excited. I'm going to be a millionaire. I'm going to change the world. I'm going to do this for this person. I'm going to buy this for my mom and my children. I'm going to put them through school. And you got all these great dreams. And then you get up in the morning and life punch you in your face. As long as it's a perfect day, you operate at excellence. But as soon as the circumstances change, you quit. You give up. Because we all going to hit that wall. We're all going to hit opposition. We're all going to hit adversity. But I think we all know at the core, it's never about what happens to you. It's about how you respond to it. You can control that. In the midst of escalating levels of anxiety provoked by today's increasing complexity and accelerating change, the thing that any leader or successful person must have is resiliency. The ability to bounce back in the face of every challenge, every opposition, every failure, every setback. And the key is never, ever, ever give up. I need effort from you. I need you to match whatever effort the enemy is putting up. Whoever your enemy is, match the doggone effort. When you get out there, I need you kill or be killed when you get out there. We ain't playing no more. We ain't taking no prisoners no more. When you get out there, whatever you can get, go get it. Because they gonna get it before you get it. And they ain't gonna give it to you. So you go out there and get what's yours. Ain't nobody about to give you your personal freedom. If you're going to get your personal freedom, they ain't giving it away. You gotta go get it. You gotta go earn it.
Test days come. They come over and over and over again. The purpose of these days is so that you can prove to yourself, not the rest of the world, that you are the kind of person that possesses the mental fortitude, the grit, the toughness, the perseverance, the discipline to get things done regardless of what the situation is. And if you become this kind of person who can get things done regardless of what's going on, regardless of what's going on in the economy, regardless of what's going on in your personal life, regardless of how you feel, regardless of the weather, how the can you be stopped by anything? You cannot.
What you fighting for? What's your legacy? What you gonna do? You say you a champ, but do you practice like a champ? You say you a champ, do you fight like a champ? You say you a champ, do you have the mentality of a champ? I'm so strong mentally that when I get tired, that's when I get that dog. That's when I'm ready to go. You gotta start thinking I'm the greediest motherfucker in the world. Not only do I climb that doggone mountain, I enjoy climbing the mountain. I get a kick out the mountain. I get a kick out the weights. I get a kick out of fatigue. I get a kick out of the grind. I get a kick out of it.
There's an adaptation process that goes into mental hardening. The body has to, you're not f***ing around with it. The adaptation process comes into suffering, comes into things you don't want to do.
It's when you have nothing left. It's when you depleted all your money, when all your energy gone, when you have nothing left, that's when it's showtime.
That you're always looking for a way to get over, always looking for a way that you can break through, always looking for a way that you can win, always looking for a way that you can strike a telling blow.
When you find the way out of no way, when you find breath that you don't have, when you find energy that did not exist, that's when you find a way.
If you guys mentally believe you can do it, your body will find a way to make it happen for you.
Because sometimes you'll get hurt, and you gotta be able to bounce back. You gotta be resilient. You might pass the test on the fourth try, not the first, not the second, not the third, and you gotta have the ability to get back up and act like you ain't never failed in the first place. You're not average. Why you being average? You're not average. Why you being good when you're not good? You great. You phenomenal. When you gonna step up to the plate?
You gotta build a level of excellence about yourself that stands the test of time no matter what happens in front of you. You are character true. I know who you are because you're the same person in adversity, in victory, in defeat. You're the same motherfucker.
Beast mode is I will not stop when others stop. I will not quit when it gets hard. I will not complain. I will not worry. I will find a way when there is no way. I will make a door when there is no door. I will create finance when there is no finance. I will find an opportunity when it doesn't exist. But I will not be defeated.
And that was a little bit of motivation. Back in a minute. Thank you, and now, meditation.
Have you ever felt overwhelmed, wired, or anxious, even when everything seems fine on the outside? This isn't your fault. It's your nervous system stuck in survival mode. Through this calming vagus nerve meditation, you'll gently reset your body's stress response, relax your entire system, and return home to peace, to softness, to you. Let's begin. Welcome, dear one. Right now, you've arrived in a sacred moment, a space to breathe, to let go, to allow your body and nervous system to soften. Sit or lie down wherever you feel most safe and supported. Close your eyes if that feels right for you. Take a slow, deep breath in through your nose and exhale fully out of your mouth. Again, inhale slowly and exhale completely, like a wave receding into the shore. Let the rhythm be natural. Now bring your awareness to the space between your eyebrows, the center of calm focus. With your next breath, imagine a cool blue light resting there. Gentle, steady, peaceful. Let this light spread across your forehead, down your face, behind your ears, softening your jaw, soothing your throat. This is where your vagus nerve begins, flowing down through your body like a river of calm. Now place one hand lightly over your heart and one hand on your belly. Feel the rise and fall of your breath. Notice, you don't need to control anything. Just be. Begin to breathe into your hands. Let the air gently fill your belly and chest. And then exhale through pursed lips, like softly blowing through a straw. Let's do that again. Inhale into your belly. Exhale gently, slowly through pursed lips. This activates your parasympathetic nervous system, your body's rest and healing mode. Now silently repeat these affirmations. I am safe in this moment. My body knows how to relax. Calm is my natural state. I release the need to be on high alert. With each breath, feel your body becoming heavier, softer, more at peace. Feel the vagus nerve quietly doing its work, calming your heart rate, softening your muscles, quieting your mind. Now gently move your tongue to the roof of your mouth, just behind your teeth. And with your next exhale, let out a gentle sigh. Let go. Let everything go. You're not doing this alone. Your body is helping you. Your breath is guiding you. Your nervous system is rebalancing, moment by moment. Take one final deep breath in. Hold for 3 seconds. Exhale completely and surrender. Now slowly bring your awareness back to the space around you. Wiggle your fingers and toes. When you're ready, open your eyes. Feel the calm still present within you. You've activated your own healing from the inside out. Take this peace into the rest of your day. And remember, you can return to this feeling anytime. The calm is always here, within you. Thank you for being here. See you in the next meditation.
Back in a minute. Thank you. A little bit of Maria Bartiromo.
pilots who are calling in sick and the air traffic control who are complaining that they're not getting paid. They should be getting paid. Congress is getting paid. And all these people, these staffers in Washington are not getting paid. Who's going to be blamed for this month-long plus shutdown, Lee?
You know, it's been really interesting to watch the polling on this.
Anyway, so this is an opportunity for the Republicans, and the Republicans, of course, are missing this opportunity. If I was President Trump, the first thing that I would do if I was President Trump is have a president's channel, have a cable channel called the President's Channel. And every night I would get on that channel and have a show, and I would talk directly to the American people and tell them what's going on, unfiltered by the assholes at CBS, NBS, and ABS. Now, in this particular case, and I would also use it for opportunities to propagandize. So, for instance, in this situation, we have people that are going to be out of SNAP benefits and food stamps and all that. And if I was the president, I would then look into the camera and tell them, look, the Democrats are getting ready to take food out of your mouths. But we, the Republicans, the Republican Party, we will make you whole. And that would be my message to everybody in the country, the people that are getting set not to get paid. The message would be, we will make you whole. One of the things I would like to say is then I would like to add up all the salaries of the people in Congress, find out how much that is, and tell the American people, hey, let's say it's $1 billion. They're getting $1 billion in salary. Wow, $1 billion buys a lot of groceries. Okay, so the implication there is clear. Then we can go into their bank accounts and their net worths. And we can start with Nancy Pelosi and say, Nancy Pelosi has a net worth of $300 and some odd million. Again, $300 million buys a lot of groceries. So again, use it as a propaganda point. The Democrats are the ones that are literally taking food out of your mouth, but we Republicans, we will come to your rescue. That's what he should do. That's what somebody in the Republican Party should do. Back in a minute. Thank you. A little bit more of Maria.
To get affordable housing there. But yeah, his first priority was stop socialism and Mamdani. Here's what he said about that. Watch.
Look, he is out of sync with how New Yorkers feel. You would never, you'd have to disassociate yourself immediately with anyone who said America deserved 9/11, right? It is so repulsive, right, to all New Yorkers. I just think he doesn't get it. You know, he's dual citizenship. He was a citizen of Uganda. His parents own a mansion in Uganda. He spent a lot of time there. He just doesn't understand the New York culture, the New York values, what 9/11 meant, what entrepreneurial growth means, opportunity means, why people came here.
Gregory.
So that was Andrew Cuomo with Maria Bartiromo being interviewed. When you listen to it, he sounds sympathetic. He sounds like he sympathizes. This isn't a criticism of Mamdani. This is, again, him being sympathetic. And the reason I say that is because he's avoiding the use of one particular word, the W word, wrong. He does not say that Mamdani is wrong. He's wrong for New York. He's wrong about this. He's wrong about that. He's wrong about the other thing. He instead talks about understanding. Well, he doesn't understand. He's from somewhere else. And he's also trying to be careful, because if he comes right out and says Mamdani isn't a true American, then his own people will start to sling the mud and refer to him as a xenophobe. So He's very, very careful, but the fact is he's got to come out sooner or later if he wants to make himself clear and say whether or not Mamdani is right or wrong for New York, right or wrong in his policies. Mamdani wants to defund the police. Is that right or is that wrong? He wants to make all public transportation in New York free. Is that right or is that wrong? Okay, so that's the way he needs to speak if he wants to be clear. Otherwise, he's not positioning himself as a candidate. He's positioning himself as an analyst and a commentator. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now, Apollo.
4. On Wednesday, July 16th, 1969, 2,974 days after John F. Kennedy asked the United States to commit itself to a lunar landing, 169 days before the deadline he had set, Apollo 11 was launched. The Saturn V carrying Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and Michael Collins lifted off from Pad 39A at 9:32 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, the precise moment selected months earlier. It had been just 10 years earlier, in the summer of 1959, that Scott Simpkinson and his team of 45 had arrived at the Cape and set up shop in one corner of Hangar S, that Joe Bobick had sprayed ammonia to kill the mosquitoes so that his men could work through the night on Big Joe, and that Jack Kinsler had carted out the Mercury capsule cushioned by mattresses on the back of a flatbed truck. As it had for Apollos 8, 9, and 10, the Saturn V performed flawlessly. Then, in a maneuver that had become almost routine, the S-4B sent the command module Columbia carrying the lunar module Eagle into its translunar trajectory. At 8 o'clock on Sunday morning, Houston time, July 20th, 1969, the LEM Eagle disappeared behind the moon, and Gene Kranz's white team took over the Mocher to handle the lunar descent. Kranz had already been to Mass early that morning at the Shrine of the True Cross near his home in Dickinson. He had listened to his Sousa marches. He had brought a brand new vest of white brocade with silver thread that his wife Marta had made for the day's shift. Now, as Glenn Lunny finished the handover process, Kranz carefully removed the vest from the plastic bag he had hung over the back of his console and put it on as fastidiously as a matador adjusting the jacket of his traje de luces. Kranz looked behind him at the viewing room. There, gathered behind the glass, were Payne, Siemens, von Braun, Silverstein, Elms, Petrone, Reese, Debus, Draper, the astronauts for the next missions, and some astronauts from years gone by. In front of the glass in the fourth row of the Mocher were Bob Gilruth, Sam Phillips, George Lowe, George Miller, Chris Kraft, and Deke Slayton. The rest of the Mocher was packed with off-duty controllers. Kranz caught sight of Bill Tyndall squeezed into the group in the viewing room. Tyndall was Kranz's kind of guy, a man who knew what he believed and wasn't afraid to get emotional about it, who told you where he stood. Plus which, as Kranz saw it, Tyndall had been sort of a spiritual leader of the Mocher, their mentor in getting ready for this moment. Kranz beckoned to Tyndall to come into the Mocher and plug in beside him, an honor that Tyndall would never forget. While the LEM was still behind the moon, Kranz directed that the doors to the Moker be locked. The level of tension was such that Steve Bales, sitting at the Guido console next to Jay Green, smiled to himself. Was Kranz trying to keep other people out or the controllers from escaping? In fact, locking the door was only the visible part of putting the Moker on battle short status, in which the circuit breakers in the control center were physically prevented from opening under an electrical load. Kranz was prepared to let a circuit burn up rather than risk a power transient that would cause a major control center system to drop offline. Then Kranz switched from flight's loop to an auxiliary loop that the people in the viewing room couldn't hear. The tape of what he said is lost. As best he can recall, what he told his controllers went something like this. Hey gang, we are really going to go and land on the moon today. This is no bullshit. We're going to land on the moon. We're about to do something that no one has ever done. Be aware that there's a lot of stuff that we don't know about the environment that we're ready to walk into, but be aware that I trust you implicitly. But also, I'm aware that we're all human. So somewhere along the line, if we have a problem, be aware that I'm here to take the heat for you. I know that we're working in an area of the unknown that has high risk, but we don't even think of tying this game. We think only to win. And I know you guys, if you've even got a few seconds to work your problem, we're going to win. So let's go have at it, gang, and I'll be tagging up to you just like we did in the training runs. Forget all the people out there. What we're about to do now, it's just like we do it in training. And after we finish this son of a gun, we'll go out and have a beer and we'll say, damn it, we really did something. Kranz had been standing behind his console as he said all this. He sat down and, feeling a little abashed, switched back to the flight loop. He'd really gotten into it. But if not now, when? As Kranz sat and waited to begin the descent, the NASA photographer in the Moker caught a shot of him. In it, Kranz is leaning forward expectantly, calm and cool. Behind the console, hidden from the camera, Kranz lifted his hand from a sheet of the flight plan and left behind a perfect, soaking wet image of his palm. It took time to check out the LEM and to put it into the initial phase of the descent, so the white team had been on shift 6 hours when they approached the moment for powered descent initiation. The Moker had settled into its rhythm by that time, and Kranz sounded relaxed as he went into a final check before PDI. Steve Bales was Guido, to be called Guidance now that they were talking on the loops. Fido was Jay Green. Retro was Chuck Dietrich. Capcom was Charlie Duke. Telcom was Don Putty. Control was Bob Carlton. Surgeon was John Ziegelschmidt. Kranz pulled the controllers, a procedure called going around the horn. Got us locked up there, Telcom? Okay, it's just real weak flight, Putty answered. Getting good radio communication from the moon was still a matter of constantly juggling signals and sources. Okay, said Kranz, who wanted a more straightforward answer. How you looking? All your systems go? That's a firm flight. How about you, Control? We look good. Guidance, you happy? Go with systems, said Bales. Fido, how about you? We're go, said Green. We're a little low flight, no problem. Raj. For the next 22 seconds, flight's loop was silent. Then Kranz's voice came on again. Okay, all flight controllers, 30 seconds to ignition. His voice was low and mellow, falling off lazily on the word ignition as if to say that it was just a stroll in the park, no sweat. And the descent to the moon began. They had been having problems communicating with the LEM. Fido intermittently lost data from MISFIN, the manned spaceflight network, but they had tracking data from pings, AGS, and Doppler radar as well. Also, it looked as if the spacecraft was going to land downrange from the planned spot. Irregularities in the gravitational field of the moon, called mascons, had played tricks with the navigation again. That one was a little worrisome. The velocity was 20 feet per second, FPS, too high for the first time Bales saw data after PDI began. That really scared the hell out of me, Bales recalled. They were already more than halfway to an abort boundary of 35 feet per second. He could think of innocuous reasons why the velocity might be too high, but he wanted to be sure this wasn't a sign of some deeper failure in the guidance computer. Bales watched the downtrack error closely, but it seemed to remain at 20 feet per second. In a way, Kranz welcomed these problems because they gave him a look at the way the team was responding to them. I listened to what they said, but I listened more to how they said it by that time. They were saying it just the way he wanted to hear it. The spacecraft yawed on schedule, and the landing radar began acquiring data for the landing. The clock came up on 5 minutes and 30 seconds into the burn. The landing radar had found the surface of the moon and begun to calculate where the Eagle was. The radar recognized that the altitude was too high and began automatically to adjust velocity to converge with the planned trajectory. Bales began to relax. "Is he accepting it, guidance?" Kranz asked Bales, inquiring whether the crew had begun using the landing radar data. Buzz Aldrin's uninflected voice came into the loop over Kranz's question. 12:02, Aldrin said. He was announcing that a light on his panel was lit, an alarm buzzer was sounding, and the program alarm code 1202 was showing on his computer display. "Stand by," said Bales, putting off an answer to Kranz. 1202, it was Aldrin again. "What's a 1202?" an unidentified voice inquired. 1202, what's that? Asked another. 1202 alarm, said Grand Paulus, sitting beside Bales. During critical portions of a mission, Guidance had a second controller, Yaw, so named because his function was to monitor the yawing movements of the spacecraft. Paulus had won that assignment for the descent. He was talking to flight now because Steve Bales had suddenly become exceedingly busy. Paulus's voice was worried. "Affirmative on that 12, Capcom said, confirming that Houston was picking up the same alarm and also implicitly promising advice to come. These were the moments when flight directors were forced by circumstance to exhibit a capacity for divided attention. Bill Tyndall had always found Kranz in particular to possess this ability to an extreme. It's like he's got two entirely separate minds, like two people. He's sitting there running these missions, calling these people, punching the buttons to bring up the loops, thinking about what's happening, and at the same time he's writing down in this precise printing of his, like a telegraph operator, exactly what's going on all the time, keeping a total record of the whole goddamn thing. It's just beyond my comprehension how anyone can do anything like that. But a capacity for such divided attention was essential precisely because of what now happened. Just as Kranz heard that a potentially mission-threatening alarm had just sounded, somebody else also had urgent business for him. Chuck Dietrich's voice came over the loop. "Flight retro. Go retro. Throttle down 6 plus 25. Retro was giving Kranz the time 6 minutes and 25 seconds into the burn, when the crew should be expecting the descent engine to throttle down to 55% power. 6 plus 25, said Kranz. In the shorthand of the Mocher, Kranz had just acknowledged Retro's message, and at the same time given a tacit direction to the Capcom, which the Capcom recognized as being a direction because he knew this was one of the items of information that the crew must have to pass Dietrich's message along to Armstrong and Aldrin. Even as Kranz confirmed the 6 plus 25, a voice from the LEM was coming in over his words. Give us the reading on the 1202 program alarm. Some abort decisions were to be made by the astronauts. Other abort decisions were to be made on the ground. In the case of a program alarm, the instrumentation in the LEM could tell the astronauts only that an alarm had occurred and its number. Armstrong and Aldrin could know nothing else about whether it was recurring or how serious it was, and they knew that the ground would have to make the call. When the Eagle said, give us the reading, they were asking whether they should abort. It was now up to Steve Bales. When the report of the alarm had come in, Bales had half risen from his seat, pulled up by a surge of adrenaline, his left index finger furiously twirling a lock of hair. He began talking to his back room where Jack Garman also had heard the message. They still didn't have any data. It would be another 4 or 5 seconds before the computer brought that up on the screen. But Garman was sure right away what the alarm was, and his voice came over the Guido loop quickly in an almost schoolmasterish voice, each word carefully articulated. It's executive overflow. If it does not occur again, we're fine. Yeah, said Grand Paulus in his Texas drawl. It's the same thing we had, referring to the sim of a few weeks earlier. Actually, it wasn't the same thing they'd had. The simulated program alarm had been one that was possible during a flight, whereas a 1202 alarm was, they thought, impossible, purely a debugging alarm, still in the software only by oversight. But because of the simulation, they had studied up on even the impossible ones, so the team was ready. Examined clinically, it was a textbook case of how the flight control system was supposed to function. A type of failure had been foreseen and simulated. Based on that experience, rules had been developed. At the moment of crisis, the man in the back room, Jack Garman, had instantly retrieved from his memory the salient information and given it to his man in the front room. It was cut and dried. Examined less clinically, the decision was not that clear. I thought I was right, Bales said years later of the call he was about to make. Well, I knew I was right based on the work we'd done previously. And he trusted Garman, who Bales thought was the smartest computer guy he'd ever met. And yet, it still wasn't so simple. I knew I was executing what we decided to do previously, Bales continued. But then you could ask, well, what was the softness or firmness of that decision made previously? And there was some softness in it. No one knew really what was causing the problem. When you don't know what's causing the problem, you are never absolutely 100% sure that the decision you're making is right. It's like trying to diagnose yourself and taking a pill just on symptoms. So I knew I was doing the right thing from what we'd previously discussed, and I knew darn well there was some softness in that decision. He also knew that 2 lives could depend on his being right. And so when Steve Bales made his call, he stammered slightly, and his voice was high. We're go on that flight. It was 19 seconds since he had first told Kranz to stand by. Steve Bales, 26 years old, with some advice from a 24-year-old, given 19 seconds to think it over, told Gene Kranz, Chris Kraft, General Phillips, Administrator Payne, President Nixon, and the world, and not incidentally Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong, ignore the computer and trust me. We're go on that alarm? Kranz wanted to make absolutely sure. Again, Bales stammered. If it doesn't recur, we'll be go. Jack Garman's voice was in Bales's ear again, straightening out a slight misunderstanding. It's continuous that makes it no-go. If it recurs, we're fine, meaning if it recurred with intervals of several seconds in between, they were fine. He continued to articulate each word carefully, slowly, confidently. Raj, Kranz replied to Bales. Did you get the throttle down, Capcom? Kranz had already put the alarm aside and was now checking to make sure that, in the midst of the excitement, the 6+25 time had been passed up to the crew. A different computer alarm came back again later, just after Kranz announced. He couldn't keep a note of triumph out of his voice, that they were go for landing at 3,000 feet. Understand, go for landing 3,000 feet, said Aldrin. 1201 alarm. Roger, 1201 alarm, said Capcom. 1201 alarm, said Kranz, an implied question in his voice. Bales had already been talking to his backroom. What alarm, Jack? Same type, we're go. Bales began to speak even before Kranz finished. Same type, he said, confidently now, no stammer. We're go, flight. Okay, we're go, Kranz said to Capcom. Same type, we're go, said Charlie Duke to Armstrong and Aldrin. Listening to his words echo through the network, Jack Garman, sitting in obscurity in the Flight Dynamics backroom, had a feeling of being, for that brief and crucial moment, truly connected to the astronauts. For the next minute, Garman listened as the crew performed the final maneuvers before landing. The adrenaline rush that had swept him during the program alarms faded, leaving him drained with a detached sense of watching events in slow motion. It was then that he heard Aldrin in Eagle say, 40 feet, down 2.5, picking up some dust. Garman was startled out of his trance. Everything else had felt exactly like the simulations until then. But Aldrin had never said, picking up some dust before. The image of the dust blowing up around the LEM made it real, and the enormity of it began to sink in. Armstrong and Aldrin brought Eagle to the surface with a fuel tank that was nearly dry. With 30 seconds of fuel left, Capcom Charlie Duke had made the only call that Kranz was permitting at this point of intense concentration, a fuel call. 30 seconds is all Duke said, and from then on it had been agonizing for the Moker. Perhaps they didn't have even 30 seconds. They calculated fuel remaining based on the average throttle setting during hover, and the crew had started throttling well before hover. If the fuel went dry, the computers would automatically try to abort the landing and fire the ascent stage, a maneuver that, this close to the surface, left no margin for error at all. Every controller in the Moker knew all this and watched the clocks, or most did. An off-duty Guido sitting on the ledge behind the trench just buried his head in his hands. Contact lights. Okay. Engine stop. Buzz Aldrin followed this with a string of procedures he and Armstrong were carrying out, safing the vehicle. We copy you down, Eagle, Duke said. Houston, Tranquility Base here, Neil Armstrong announced. The Eagle has landed. Roger, Tranquility, we copy you on the ground. You've got a bunch of guys about to turn blue. We're breathing again. Thanks a lot. Even as Capcom was saying to Eagle, we copy you down, Kranz was already on the loop to the controllers. Okay, everybody, T1, stand by for T1. There were circumstances under which the LEM might have to launch immediately from the lunar surface, so the flight controllers had to make stay-no-stay decisions at touchdown +1 and touchdown +2 minutes, called simply T1 and T2. But at this point, Kranz had to speak loudly because the viewing room had erupted. The VIPs behind the glass cheered and stamped and applauded, and then the off-duty people inside the mocher broke into cheers as well. Kranz could no longer fight off the emotions that were sweeping over him. He knew he had to be getting ready for T1 and T2, but he couldn't make himself do it. He couldn't say anything. He couldn't move. The crisis over, Gene Kranz froze. His left hand was clutching the handle on the front of the console. His right was holding the pencil with which he wrote his tidy little telegraphic notes. Now, in his frustration with himself, he smashed his right arm down on the desk of his console, breaking the pencil and bruising himself from elbow to wrist. That broke the spell, and he could begin again. Okay, all flight controllers, about 45 seconds to T1. Stay, no stay. He was back to normal. A few seconds later, irritably, okay, keep the chatter down in this room. At 4 o'clock that afternoon, the white team came off shift. Steve Bales was told to go along to the press briefing in Building 1. As he emerged from the control center, blinking in the harsh sunlight of a Houston July, he saw a group of demonstrators, kids about his age, out on the grass beside the duck pond. They weren't making a fuss, they were just trying to get attention for their cause, which was more food for hungry people or something like that. It was 1969, but Bales had been preoccupied for the last few years and had never seen demonstrators before, though he had heard about them. They were a great curiosity to him. He gawked surreptitiously at their sandals and the slogans on their T-shirts and their long hair. It is unlikely that they noticed Steve Bales as he hurried by with his white shirt, his neatly tied tie, his NASA badge, pens in his pocket, square as could be.
And that was Chapter 24, Section 4 of Apollo by Charles Murray and Catherine Bly Cox. Back in a minute.
Thank you. And this is Ron, your host, the only true conservative in the United States today, bidding adios to all the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers out there, and reminding you that feminism is power for men.